everyone. It's time for another Shocktober episode. I wasn't sure if I wanted to include this movie in Shocktober. It was one we watched at work, and it was just a movie I kind of threw on and was interested in it, but technically it is categorized as a horror film, so I'm going to include it, and that's how it's going to be. But to me, it's not really a horror film. It's kind of like a fucked up drama. But this movie is called The Bad Batch and is on Netflix. The synopsis here is: in a desert wasteland in Texas, a muscled cannibal breaks one important rule: don't play with your food. And that's a really terrible synopsis, and it fits because this is a pretty terrible movie. I had heard some good things about this, and the director has done another movie that I have not seen, but I hear is very good. It's The Girl Who Walks Alone at Night. It's like a black and white vampire movie that I always hear is really good. But and the director is Anna Lily. How do I say this? Amirpour? Amirpour? I have no idea. But The Bad Batch, the standout thing about this movie is it stars Jason Momoa, and he's kind of like the big buff leader of the cannibals. So they don't give you, it's like a movie where there's like this crazy world, but they don't give you a lot of information about it. So the idea is they call it a post-apocalypse, but it doesn't feel like a post-apocalyptic movie. But basically it's like, oh, the United States has fenced off like the western side, and that's land is called the Bad Batch, and that's where they dump like criminals and outcasts and things like that. And the very beginning of the movie is our main character, this girl, just being played by Suki Waterhouse, and her character name is Aryan, which honestly doesn't even fucking matter. But she gets dropped over in the Bad Batch, and then the whole, like, it's a very slow movie, which I was fine with at first, and the whole first like 10 minutes is just her wandering the desert, like a little bit of music. For a long time there's no sound, it's just her, and then all of a sudden these cannibals show up and kidnap her, and that's where it kind of gets interesting. And immediately her right arm and right leg are cut off and they eat it, and it's graphic, it's violent, it's brutal, and like that stuff I'm like, okay, like this is interesting. And this movie did have an interesting trailer. Like if you watch the trailer, you can look at this movie and be like, all right, I kind of see something with this movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't hold up. It has a crazy cast. Like there's not a lot of people in the movie, but all the names in it are pretty big. You got Giovanni Ribisi, Keanu Reeves, Jim Carrey, Jason Momoa. It's a crazy cast. And Jim Carrey, I didn't even know it was him. He's kind of this mute homeless guy who just kind of appears randomly throughout the movie, and I forgot he was in the movie, didn't notice it was him until somebody pointed it out, and I was like, oh shit, that's Jim Carrey, you know. And it's kind of, this movie just feels like self-indulgent bullshit. It's a lot of long silences and just watching this girl walk. So basically her idea is to just get revenge on these cannibals that, you know, tried to eat her. But it never feels like she's actively pursuing that. Like, she just gets a gun and then goes after them. And then it gets tied up in this plot of Jason Momoa cares about nobody in the Bad Batch except this little girl. And he's like an artist. Like, he does all these drawings and people love his drawings. But, so the main character stumbles upon this woman and the little girl as they're just like scavenging, and she kills the woman, and then the little girl just starts following her because she's like, well, you know, what am I going to do? She's dead. And so Jason Momoa goes out looking for the little girl, and that kind of intertangles their plots. But it just doesn't really go anywhere. It's not interesting. Keanu Reeves plays this guy who's basically like a cult leader, and that's just like a bunch of weird shit. Like, he has all these kids, and he ends up like trying to adopt this little girl, like, hey, just come with us. And the movie tries to tug at your heart a little bit by making the little girl carry around an adorable bunny. And it's like, oh, you're supposed to care about this little girl, but then she disappears for a chunk of the movie. And it just felt like a movie with no real guidance. Like, it was all over the place. Character motivations just don't really matter. The only thing that's kind of a hint of a plot is Jason Momoa trying to find the girl, but then there's no real good guy in the movie. There's no real bad guy. It's just not very entertaining. Like, it has moments. Like, the beginning is good, like up until the point where she escapes these cannibals, and it's like, you know, there's some fucked up shit where she's just like, you know, got one leg, one arm, and she's on her back on a skateboard just scooting across the desert until somebody happens to rescue her. And then she gets like a fake leg, and then she's walking around with this gun. Like, there's some interesting parts, but it just becomes boring. There's a big chunk in the middle that is just a like a drug rave scene where she meets up with Keanu Reeves' like cult, and she's at this party, and she gets slipped some drugs or takes some drugs or something, and then she loses the little girl, and then just kind of like, oh well, I guess the little girl is lost. And then it's that whole section just goes on way too long, and it doesn't seem to add anything to the plot. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything because we don't even get any backstory to this character of why is she in the Bad Batch. Like, we don't know. She's just dumped there. And it's just, it feels self-indulgent. Like, it feels like this is my art movie, but I just don't see the art. It's not even a particularly good-looking movie. I just don't know what I was supposed to take out of it. I gave it a 2 out of 5 because it does have, like, a couple moments, like, in the beginning, in the end, and, like, sprinkled throughout the middle, but none of them are really worth watching the movie for. You could watch... You'll get more if you just watch the trailer. The trailer is much better than the movie. So just watch the trailer. Just maybe skip this one. It's not very good. So that's my review on The Bad Batch. And, you know, if you like this movie, if you've seen it, because I definitely have seen, like, I listened to some movie review podcasts that talked about it, and they didn't love it, but they liked it. I kind of want to go back and re-listen to see what their points were, and I don't feel like the movie was like, oh, it just went over your head, man. Like, you got to read into the art. Like, no, that doesn't seem to be the case. It's not a very good movie. So I do want to see her other movie, The Girl Who Walks Alone at Night. That is one I've been interested in. So, and that's, you know, it's a more straight up thing. It's like a foreign vampire movie. So maybe I will check that out. But The Bad Batch is not getting off on the right foot with this director. But I'll give that other movie a shot, because I've heard a lot of people like that one. So, and they liked it a lot more than The Bad Batch, that's for sure. So maybe I'll check that one out. But in the meantime, that's all I got for The Bad Batch. It's not a very good movie. So be sure to check back for our next episode, where I will be talking about a great movie. And I think it's my only 80s movie of Shocktober so far. I'm trying to think of what I've done so far. But yeah, so we're doing an 80s one. We're doing a throwback one, which it's one I've never seen before, as I'm trying to stick with movies I haven't seen before. But it's a well-known movie, just one that had I just never got around to seeing. So finally corrected that. We're going to talk about it on the next episode. Be sure to check back, and thanks for listening.